So in this lecture we'll look at two more amplifier configurations. One is a common source amplifier with a diode connected load, and the other is a common gate amplifier. We'll also briefly discuss some other crazy configurations. So here are the numbers, the same as before, only now the W by L's for the NMOS and PMOS are 500 and 1000. So let's start with the CS amp with a diode connected load. So this is a circuit. So the driver transistor is an NMOS. So the input is applied to the NMOS gate. And the load is a PMOS whose gate and drain are connected together. So let's first do a DC analysis and then we'll talk about an AC analysis. So for DC, we are given that VG1 is 0.6 volts, the DC gate voltage is 0.6 volts. The PMOS, as you can see, will bias itself. There is no external gate voltage needed for the PMOS here. So with VG1 equal to 0.6 volts, if we assume M1 in saturation, then we'll get with all our numbers that ID1 is 2 milliamps. And the PMOS W by L is twice the NMOS W by L, and the PMOS mu P Cox is half of the NMOS mu Cox, and therefore the mu Cox W by L's are equal, and so both the transistors should have the same gate source voltage magnitude. So the gate source voltage of M1 is 0.6. So the source gate of M2 should also be 0.6. So the gate will be 3 minus 0.6 equal to 2.4 volts. And with this voltage, M1 is clearly in saturation because 2.4 is much greater than 0.6 volts. Also note that when we short the gate and drain of a transistor, this transistor will never be in triode. It is either in saturation or it is off. So that is one thing we don't need to worry about once a gate and drain are connected for M2 here. Once it is on, it will always be in saturation. Alright, a little bit about a diode connected transistor. The term diode connected transistor comes from the bipolar days, whose base and collector, when they are shorted together, this becomes a two-terminal device, and this acts like a diode. In fact, in fabrication, often in bipolar ICs, diodes are fabricated like this. The transistor is fabricated and then its base and collector are shorted because transistors are easier to fabricate. And this behaves like a diode, and that is where the term diode connected transistor comes from. Now a MOSFET with its gate and drain shorted does not behave like a diode, obviously, because the MOSFET has square law characteristic, unlike a bipolar transistor, which diode and transistor both have exponential characteristic. But the term still continues to be used just from historical reasons. So we'll also continue to use that term. Alright. Now let's look at the AC, or the small signal circuit of a diode connected transistor. So this is the small signal circuit. Now if the transistor is diode connected, that means, so I'm looking at a PMOS, so the drain and gate are shorted, so the drain and gate AC voltages are equal. So GM_VSG is the same as GM_VSD because D and G are equal. Excuse me. And so if we were to write this current through the dependent current source, it is generally GM_VSG, but we can write it as GM_VSD. And if we rewrite this, we can say VSD over ID1 is equal to 1 by GM. VSD is the voltage across this current source. The current is ID1 and the ratio VSD by ID1 is 1 by GM. Now because this is the relationship of a resistor, it's Ohm's law actually, because the voltage across an element is equal to a constant times a current through the element. Therefore, in this small signal circuit, the dependent current source can be replaced by a resistor of value 1 by GM. because the drain and gate are shorted together. Therefore, in the small signal circuit, a diode connected transistor acts just like a resistor whose value is the parallel combination of 1 by Gm and Ro. Alright, so remember this because we will encounter diode connected transistors often in our circuits. So the small signal circuit is much simpler. Alright, so with this circuit, we draw the complete circuit of the common source amplifier. So we have the input at the gate. The NMOS has the dependent source Gm of N, N2V in, and Ro of the NMOS. And then the PMOS is just the parallel combination of 1 by Gm and Ro. So now, of course, RON, ROP and 1 by Gm are all in parallel with each other, connected between the node VO and ground. And this current flows through this parallel combination. So we get VO over Vin equal to minus GMN, this GMN, into the parallel combination of RON, ROP and 1 by GMP. Now, generally speaking, Gm 1 over GMP is much smaller than the ROs, and therefore this quantity is often approximated as simply 1 by Gm because this is the smallest of 3 resistors in parallel. And so one writes the voltage gain of such a circuit simply as minus GMN over GMP, the Gm of the NMOS divided by the Gm of the PMOS, if the input is applied at the NMOS. The same expression will be valid if the input was applied at the PMOS with the diode connected NMOS, only then that will be GMP by GMN. So we substitute for Gm and GMP in terms of ID, so square root of all this, then the IDs will cancel, the 2's will cancel, and we can write the voltage gain of this circuit approximately because we are ignoring these two, as mu n Cox W by L of the NMOS divided by mu p Cox W by L of the PMOS. This is a constant. The voltage gain is approximately a constant. It does not depend on the current that is flowing in the circuit. Therefore, if the current varies, the voltage gain does not vary. So this is kind of similar to the common source amplifier with source degeneration, that it gives a more linear gain, but at the same time you can see that this gain cannot be made very large, because if we have to make this large, the only thing we can change is the W by L's. And let's see, if I want to get gain of 10, then the W by L ratios have to be in a ratio of 100 because there is a square root here. Alright, so again these circuits are used for obtaining small gains which are less nonlinear compared to our workhorse of a common source amplifier with a current source load. Alright, let us go to the common gate amplifier. Common gate is what? The input is applied at the source, the output is taken at the drain. The gate is the common terminal between the input and output in the small signal circuit, because in the small signal circuit the gate terminal will be grounded. Alright, so again we are given some numbers. So Vg1 is 0.5, Vg2 is 2.5. So we do a DC analysis first. There are two transistors, therefore we must find the drain currents of both transistors and make sure that they are equal in, well, whatever region. So if we find ID1 0.1, which is mu n Cox W by 2L is 0.1 into 500 is W by L, 0.5 minus Vt, which turns out to be 0.5 milliamps. ID2, of course, these two are identical, have identical mu Cox W by L's. The gate source voltage of M1 is 0.5. The gate source voltage of M2, or the source gate voltage of M2, is also 0.5. So they will be carrying the same current. And so because they have the same current, we can conclude that the transistors are in saturation because they have equal saturation currents. Incidentally, when we solve the DC circuit, we will make the small signal voltage 0. So this small signal input voltage is 0, and so the source is grounded for the DC circuit, and that is how the DC VGS1 is 0.5 volts. Okay, now let us solve the AC circuit. So we want to find the voltage gain of this circuit. You can pause the video and find the voltage gain and then continue. Alright, so we draw the AC circuit. So the input source, the NMOS has, so the NMOS has GM1 VGS pointing down, but the gate is grounded in this circuit. So VGS becomes minus VS. So we make the current source point up with a GM1 VS and then the RO of the NMOS, and the PMOS simply has an RO2 because the gate and source of the PMOS are both at AC ground. So now we have only one unknown node VO, Vs is equal to Vin. So we write a KCL at the output node. So is a VO over RO2 plus VO minus Vs over RO1 minus GM1 Vs equal to 0, and Vs is equal to Vin. So we get minus GM1 Vin equal to 0. So we solve this for VO and we get VO over Vin equal to RO2 into GM1 RO1 plus 1 divided by RO1 plus RO2. That's easily solvable from here. Now we can rewrite this equation in this form. So we take the first term and then the second term. So this will be GM1 RO1 RO2 by RO1 plus RO2, which is GM1 into RO1 parallel RO2 plus RO2 divided by RO1 plus RO2. Now this quantity of course is always less than 1, typically about half or so. So it's going to be small, so we can ignore this quantity, and so we say the voltage gain of this circuit is approximately GM1 into RO1 parallel RO2. I'm sorry, this is parallel, so oops, let me make it parallel. Alright, so this gain of course then is the same as the gain of a common source circuit, right? Because the common source gain was also GM1 RO1 parallel RO2, except of course the common source circuit had a negative sign because from the gate to the drain there is an inversion, from the source to the drain there is no inversion. In other words, if the source voltage increases, the drain voltage also increases. You think about it, it is straightforward, but if you're not convinced, then you ask me in class or whenever. Now one thing to recognize is that this gain that we've obtained assuming that the input signal source is ideal. If the input signal source was not ideal, that is if it had a resistance in series with it, then the voltage gain of this circuit would become smaller. Alright, so I'm asking why. Maybe in other words, I'm asking that you put an R source here, the source resistance of the input voltage source, and find the voltage gain again. Alright, please do this as homework. It's a simple circuit, but it is worthwhile solving. Alright. What is the input resistance of a common gate amplifier? The input resistance of a common gate amplifier is the resistance looking into or up the source of a MOSFET. So let's go back here. So looking up the source of a MOSFET is the input resistance. Now if this we had derived earlier, we had derived earlier, lecture 14 slide 9. Alright, the resistance looking up the source of the MOSFET is RO1 plus RO2 divided by 1 plus GM RO1. Now in our circuit, this is RO2, RO1 and GM1, and so if we assume that GM1 RO1 is much greater than 1, and for our purposes if we assume that RO1 is equal to RO2, then you get 2RO by GM RO, and so that RO will cancel, you will get input resistance of 2 by GM1. Right, let's put numbers now. So we've already solved the DC circuit. So we say GM1 is equal to 2 into mu n Cox, which is 0.2 into W by L 500 into VGS minus VT, which is 0.1. So that turns out to be 10 milliamp per volt. So Rin is 2 divided by 10 milliamp per volt. So 2 by 10 is 1 by 5. So that is 200 ohms. So the input resistance of a common gate amplifier that we have designed is 200 ohms. Now 200 ohms is not a very large number for the input resistance of an amplifier, right? Therefore, the common gate amplifier really does not make a good voltage amplifier, alright. Also, I make a note here that Rin can be large. So here our circuit had RO2, which was the RO of a PMOS, which is typically of the same order as the RO of an NMOS for the same current. So these are of the same order. But if by some means I were to make RO2 very large, very large, then it is possible that Rin can be made large also. This is just a note, not very practically used, but it is important to recognize when we make such statements that Rin is small, that all such statements are qualified by certain conditions. Alright. So here are the observations we make about a common gate amplifier. First of all, that it has the same gain as a common source amplifier, but only for an ideal signal source. Its input resistance is small, therefore it does not make a good voltage amplifier. So in reality, common gate amplifiers are broadly used in 3 different types of circuits. One is as a part of a cascode configuration. Then this we'll study in the next lecture or the lecture after that. The second is as current buffers, because if you want an input, if the input source is a current, then you want the input resistance of the amplifier to be small. And because a common gate has a small input resistance, it makes a good current input amplifier. So often these circuits are used as current buffers. Third is they are actually used often as input stages in communication receivers. High frequency communication means high frequency, but all the more so in RF communication receiver. So let's look at that for a minute. So a receiver will, of course, any communication receiver will have an antenna, and the antenna will pick up a signal, and that signal is directly fed to an amplifier. That amplifier is in RF terminology called a low noise amplifier, just for your information. So if you are to represent the antenna by a Thevenin's equivalent, we'll say the antenna can be represented by a voltage source in series with the Thevenin's equivalent resistance of the antenna, and the amplifier input Thevenin would be the Thevenin's input resistance Rin. So this becomes our equivalent circuit of the first block or the first 2 blocks of the receiver. Now, of course, the signal that the antenna picks up from the air or any communication system is a very low power signal, nanowatts, picowatts, etc., etc. And therefore, we want to make sure that whatever signal is picked up or whatever power is picked up, the maximum possible of that power is transferred to the amplifier. And therefore, as you well know, for maximum power transfer to occur, Rin must be equal to R antenna. R antenna is really not in our hands. It is determined by the characteristics of the antenna, and it is typically of the order of 50 ohms, which I assume you also know. Therefore, for maximum power transfer, we want Rin to be equal to R antenna equal to 50 ohms, which is a small number. Therefore, in communication receivers, common gate amplifiers are used as the first amplifier in the receiver chain because they can give small input resistances. At the same time, I make a note that at RF frequencies, one also uses common source amplifiers, and designs a circuit in front of the common source gate with inductors and capacitors which give an equivalent input impedance of 50 ohms, uh, which will be a frequency dependent impedance, but for communication applications the frequency band is very narrow, and so common source size stages are also widely used in communication receivers. All right. So here is a just a kind of summary of all the four, well, these are four stages that we have studied till now. So the common source, common gate, common drain, common source with a source degeneration with the output taken at the drain. All right. So we see that the common source amplifier gives the highest gain, common gate gives, but as we just discussed, only if the voltage source is ideal. The output resistances are high for common source and common gate and very low for the common drain. The output resistance for the common source with source degeneration can also be very high. It is RO plus RS plus GMRS RO. And so this we'll discuss later when we come to cascodes. All right. Now I want to, I said in the beginning that I want to talk about some crazy configurations. So let's think about all possible amplifier configurations we can make with MOSFETs. So a MOSFET has three input terminals. Actually, I'm not talking about body. Theoretically, one could add body also, but for now, let's ignore the body. So it has three terminals, and I can use any of the three as inputs and any of the three as outputs. So if I use the input at the gate, take the output at the source, then I have a common drain. Input at gate, output at drain is common source. Input at source and output at drain is common gate. Alright, so these three we've studied. Of course, these three are blank because I can have the input at gate and output at gate also. But you will never find a circuit even mentioned in the whole wide world in any textbook or any paper where the input is applied at the source and the output is taken at the gate, or the input is applied at the drain and the output is taken at the gate or the source. Alright, I don't know if you have ever wondered why this is. Alright, and I would like you to wonder now and answer as to why these are never ever discussed. And the way you will wonder about it is by doing this homework, is find the voltage gains of these three configurations with the question mark. So these three. So you apply the input at the source, take the output at the gate and find the voltage gain. Alright, and similarly for these two. Of course, you'll have to first draw a circuit where you can take the output at the gate. Alright, if you apply a direct voltage source at the gate, obviously you cannot take the output there. So don't, whichever terminal you are connect or taking the output from, you put a resistor to ground, then you can take the output there. Alright, so please find these three voltage gains, and that will answer the question, hopefully, why these are never ever used as amplifier configurations. All right. Now let us look ahead. So we've got all these configurations. The highest gain we found was the CMOS common source amplifier, and that has given us a gain of about 200 with our numbers, with some lambdas were assumed and all, but roughly 200 is also not that easy actually to get from CMOS common source amplifiers. But as you recall, hopefully, that our goal, one major goal of our course, is to build an amplifier that has a gain of 10,000. So the next question we ask is, well, I've got a gain of 200. You remember we started with a gain of 4 when we had a drain resistance, and then we got to 200 by replacing that drain resistance with a PMOS. Now we are asking, well, what do we do next to get a higher gain? So the answer is, to get a higher gain now, we either cascade or we cascode So we'll begin our discussion, or the next stage of our discussion will be cascode amplifiers. This is the next stage will be a cascode amplifier. All right. So that is the end of this lecture now.